Hi everyone, this is Cheryl behind the camera again, and this is Manny, and I'm going to demonstrate how to make this cute little girl skirt. Real easy project, great for beginners. So let's get started. The pattern that I'm using is Simplicity New Look. The number is A6409. This pattern is sold exclusively through Walmart, but this type of skirt you will find in all pattern books. It's just a basic straight skirt with an elastic waistline. So get any pattern that is similar to this and follow along, and you can create the same skirt. Now I'm doing number B right here, and so I will be showing you how to put the ric-rac on. Really easy step. On the back of the envelope gives the size information. This has sizes for children ages 3 through 8, but don't pay attention so much to the age of the child, but the waistline size. So measure the size of your child's waist, and whatever that falls under is going to be the size that you will use when making the skirt. This skirt has two different pattern pieces that you will be using. They are labeled pattern piece 1 and pattern piece 2. Pattern piece 1 is the main body of the skirt. What you need to do is get a highlighter pen and highlight the cutting line that you're going to be using. So for instance, they're all labeled what they are for the age. Remember, you're using the waistline size. So if your child is 3, but they have a waistline of a 4-year-old, then you're going to use the 4-year-old line. But you want to pre-wash your fabrics. Before you pre-wash the fabric, do a zigzag stitch on both raw edges of the fabric. Then wash, dry it, and give it a good pressing. You're going to fold the fabric like it shows here. This is a selvage edge, and this is a selvage edge. You're going to have 2 fold lines. So you're bringing those selvage edges towards the center. Pattern piece number 1 is placed down twice. This unshaded area is with the pattern piece facing up. This shaded area is the pattern piece facing down. You're going to place it on the fold line here and here. Elastic casing, I should say, is the selvage edges are folded here. But remember, do not place this on the fold line because you're going to cut around all sides. On both of your pattern pieces, there are these little areas right here that are called notches. You're going to cut out these notches, and they're on the waist or the elastic casing. There are 6 notches, 2 on each side and 1 at each end. Now they'll tell you to cut them out like this, which is fine, you can do it that way, but I prefer to cut in. So you're going to find the notches on both pattern piece number 1 and pattern piece number 2. The pattern instructions state that the width of your seam needs to be 5/8. So on the throat plate of your sewing machine, there are some lines. So your needle is going down through here, and this line right here, the 15 millimeter line. This is the 10, the next one is the 15. You'll keep the raw edge of your fabric up against that line. There's also one on the other side. These 2 pieces are the main portion of the skirt. You're going to bring front sides together of the 2 pieces. When you're bringing them together, you want to match up the 2 notches right here, and then on each side there is a notch. So go ahead and match those up. Then place pins along this side. Continue pinning on this side, and also go over here and pin. And you're going to stitch 5/8 of an inch away from this raw edge in, and the same thing on this side. So I forgot to mention earlier that on the side seam raw edges here, that you should do a zigzag stitch. That's so that the fabric does not unravel during washing, or you could, after you've stitched this seam, then run it through the serger. So now that you've got your seam stitched together, press open the seams on each side. This is the elastic casing pieces, so bring those two pieces front sides together and line up your notches at each end, and then do your 5/8 inch seam here and here. Then press the seams open at your ironing board, and you're going to stay at the ironing board, and you're going to fold the two sides together. So you're bringing back sides of the fabric together, and you have it folded like this, and press that also. Now we're going to put the elastic casing on the skirt. Now on the instructions it shows you how to do it one particular way. I'm going to do mine differently because I happen to like my method better, so you can still do it my way or the way the instructions do it. Unfold the elastic casing and slip it over the top of the skirt. Match the side seams of the skirt and the pin casing on each side. Then go to your notches, there's 2 on each side, and place pins. Then fill in the other area along the edge with straight pins. Then at your sewing machine, you're going to do your 5/8 inch seam from this raw edge in. This next step you're going to do at your ironing board. This is the seam where the elastic casing and the skirt are stitched together. You're going to press this seam towards the elastic casing. So slip it over the end of your ironing board and make sure that the seam is on this side. And then with your iron, press right along this seam and do that all the way around. Now I noticed that the elastic that is required is 1 inch wide elastic, but the way they designed to do this seam, I realized while doing this that the elastic, once it's inserted, is going to be very, very tight and difficult to pull through. So I'm just going to change things just a little bit. Instead of folding this raw edge over 5/8 of an inch, I'm only going to fold it over 1/2 inch so that you have a little bit of wiggle room for the elastic to go through easily. So go ahead and press this all the way around, folding it in 1/2 inch. Then after that, you're going to fold it over towards the seam right here and just line it up along the edge right there on that seam, and then press this again with your iron. Now you're going to place pins to hold the casing in place, and I've put the folded edge of the casing right up against the stitch line that hold the casing and the skirt together. Don't pull that fold line past the stitch line, just right up against it. Then you're going to indicate an area that you want to leave open that you will not stitch over, anywhere from 2 to 2.5 inches wide. So I always place 2 pins where I want to stop stitching. So stitch real close to the edge all the way around, and then of course you're going to stop here. And at your start and stop point, do a few stitches back and forth so when you're feeding the elastic through, it doesn't rip that out. Now the elastic insertion we're going to do at the very end when all of the other remaining steps are completed, because it'll be so much easier to do that without the elastic in. Now you're going to do the hem. So the instructions call for pressing the lower edge of the skirt over 1/4 inch and then press it with your iron. Then fold it again 3/4 of an inch, and I usually will keep a little sewing gauge there, and it helps to use this as you're pressing. So set it to 3/4 of an inch and then of course press. And do that all the way around the lower edge of the skirt. Then really close to this edge, right here, you're going to stitch all the way around. To mark where the rickrack goes on the skirt, the instructions tell you to, from this lower edge here, to come up 5 1/4 inches to do the first line. So line up the 5 1/4 inch line on the lower portion of the skirt and make sure it's all lined up correctly. And it says to either use a pencil, a fabric marker, or chalk to mark the line. So I'm using a pencil. The next line it tells you to do is 3 1/4 inches away from the lower edge. So go ahead and line up 3 1/4 inches on that lower edge and draw your second line. Now, also do it on the other side. The third row of rickrack is going to go right over the stitch line where you did your hem. If you have a storage compartment that is wrapped around the arm of your sewing machine, remove it. Then take your skirt and you're going to place part of it underneath the arm and then bring the other part on top. And you're going to find it's going to be really easy to stitch your rickrack on. Now, here is one of my side seams. I'm going to start the rickrack at that side seam. Now, here's what I'm using. I'm just using a medium rickrack. Now, I don't want to start stitching right at the end. I'm just going to go back here a little ways and line it up and lower my needle down in there. Okay? And then just keep that rickrack right over that drawn line and stitch right down the center of the rickrack. So sew a little bit and adjust the rickrack if you need to and keep stitching right down that center. Now when you get near the end, overlap the rickrack a little bit. You want maybe about 1/2 inch extending out this way. Then go ahead and cut it off and then fold it, trying to match the direction of the rickrack. As you can see, this comes in pretty close. Once you have it lined up, then continue stitching all the way down to the end. Get my petal moved over. There we go. And then go back and forth. And then cut your thread. Now it's time to measure the child's waist for the elastic. So take your 1 inch wide elastic and bring it around the waist of the child. And don't make it too tight or too loose. Then add 1 inch to that. Take that piece of elastic, put a big safety pin at the end. Then that hole that you left there at the waist area, begin to insert the elastic and begin pushing the elastic through. After you have the elastic pulled, then you're going to overlap the ends like this by about 1/2 inch. And what I usually do is at the sewing machine, I'll just stitch like a little rectangle square around there a couple of times, and that makes it pretty secure. After you have stitched the ends of the elastic together, push it inside of the casing here and then stitch right along there to close up that opening. Isn't this skirt adorable? My daughter would have loved this skirt when she was little. Now, if you're interested in doing the machine applique flower, click on that link in the upper right hand corner and follow those instructions. It's a really easy process. Or remember, you can purchase a flower to stitch over the front of the skirt, and make sure that that flower you purchase is washable. Well, again, I just loved how this turned out. If you liked this video, click on thumbs up. Also, click on share to share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click on that red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Click on that little bell so you receive future emails about my latest video. I'm Cheryl. That's Manny. We'll see you next time, and happy sewing.